Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
This is Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast with your host, Bruce Hutchin, episode number 272. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, Bruce Hutchin, and we're heading out to western Wisconsin, Pepin County to be exact, and we're going to talk with Audrey Pfaffe. And Audrey is the owner of Marnik Whitetail Nutrition. And that's about having a balanced herd. Even more important, she knows the rut. I've broken the show into two parts because the first part, we're going to talk about how she got her mother in a tree stand. And the second part is how she hunts each separate segment of the rut. The seeking, the chase, the lockdown, and the post-rut. You're not going to want to miss either episode, so stay tuned for Audrey Pfaffe. Hey, listeners, don't forget to text 33444 Food Plot for your free Food Plot ebook. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is Bruce Hutchin, your host, and we're heading out to Wisconsin, and we're going to connect with Audrey Pfaffe. And Audrey is a very interesting young lady. She's got a great hunting tradition. She and her husband, Andrew, own Marnik Whitetail Nutrition. And she just told me in the warm-up, her mom's getting into hunting. So, Audrey, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, in the warm-up, we were talking about your mom getting to hunting. Let's just start the show right there and talk about why your mom's getting into hunting.
All right. Well, up until 4 years ago, she never had any interest in hunting at all. She was always the typical, she's cooking all the big lunches and the big breakfast for all the hunters that are, at our typical deer camp, like all my uncles and cousins and stuff. And so she'd be too busy at home kind of taking care of all of us to really have any opportunity to go. And she doesn't really she's a typical woman, doesn't like cold weather, doesn't like, being out in the rain or anything like that. So for her, she was pretty content just being at home. But then 4 years ago, we kind of had some personal family issues arise, and she was telling me that she's like, I want to spend more time with you. And I'm like, well, it's fall. If you want to spend time with me, you're going to have to put on some boots and come with me, because I'm not going to just sit in the house and watch TV. I'm out in the woods. And so I more or less kind of forced her to come out with me. And I made sure not to bring her out if it was, bad weather or cold weather, because then she just wouldn't like it. So I always brought her out when it was nice bluebird, sunny days, and took her to a spot where we'd see a lot of stuff and be entertained for the evening. And she just started to like it, because then she started asking me to take her with on weekends instead of me asking her to come. And then she bought her first deer license, her rifle license, a couple of years ago, and brought her out with me. And we had a couple opportunities at some good deer, and she kept turning them down because she was like, no, that one's too little, or no, that one, she's without her mom. I can't shoot her. I feel bad. And I was just like, wow, you're in your late 50s. You've never hunted before in your life, and now you're going to be picky. Like, well, all right, to each his own, I guess. So this year she actually came to me and said, I want you to take me rifle hunting. I want to go buy my own gun. And I was like, well, you just usually use my deer rifle, and we'll just trade off, every other day or whatever. I'd much rather have her shoot a deer than me shoot a deer anytime, because I'd be so proud of her to get her first deer. I'd much rather have her shoot one. And so this year she was just like, no, I want to carry my own gun. I want that own sense of accomplishment that it's mine, and I'm doing it by myself and all that stuff. So we had a typical girls' day at the mall shopping, except for we were at Shields buying deer rifles instead of getting pedicures and getting lunch and doing typical girl stuff. So, that was kind of a proud daughter moment for me, because she's never really been interested in it. And now, almost every weekend she's asking me to take her somewhere. So I guess
my goodness.
it's pretty exciting.
Hey, ladies out there, and even guys, I haven't heard this before. This is show number 272, and this is the first time that a child has gone to their parent and saying, you know, why don't you come hunting with me? Because this is my lifestyle. This is what I do, and I want to share it with you. And all of a sudden, mom gets all excited about it, and she's in the wilderness, not the wilderness. She's in a tree stand with her daughter, and she's enjoying the heck out of it. So you'll never know unless you ask. So, you know, props to you and your mom. I just think that's outstanding. And has she taken a couple of deer yet or not? Did I miss that?
Nope, she has not shot one yet. She shot at one last year and missed. It was a really difficult shot, so it would have been a hard shot for anybody to make, even a seasoned hunter. So she ended up missing, but right after she missed, I bawled my eyes out, just proud of her that she actually took a shot at a deer, because I grew up my whole life hunting with my dad, and she kind of wanted nothing to do with it. So for her to actually go out there in, it was like second week of rifle season, so it's cold, there's snow on the ground, we're freezing and miserable, and she still wanted to go out and shoot at a deer. I mean, I could have cared less if she got it or not. I'm just so happy we made it to that point. So this year she's kind of determined to actually get one, so we'll see how it goes. I really hope she does.
Wow, what a story. And I'm just going to ask you right now, when she does put a buck down or a doe, could you send me a photo, and then I'd like to get her on the show. I just love to interview her on the show, and because she would inspire and empower other, let's say, older ladies that have never really got into hunting, but she would join the fastest growing segment of the outdoor industry, who are women. And so I'd look forward to doing an interview with you. And you can be with her too. I mean, that would be
absolutely.
A mother-daughter. That would be off the charts. That would be.
Yep, she would love that. She's going to be tickled pink when I get off the phone here and tell her that.
Yeah,
she's probably going to be nervous as all heck, and probably going to need a couple of glasses of wine to, loosen her up a little bit, but I'm sure she'll love to do it.
Jack and Coke works. Jack and Coke works. Okay, let's get back to, we are in the show, but tell me how you and Andrew started Marnik Whitetail Nutrition.
Well, we met at school at college in 2010, and we were doing this agri-science technician program, so animal science, agronomy, farming type program. And he was more on the animal reproduction side of things, and I was more on the animal nutrition side of things. So naturally, I was kind of more or less doing his animal nutrition homework, and because I enjoyed it so much, and he didn't really want anything to do with it. But we're both avid hunters, and I mean, whitetail deer are our favorite animal. I mean, that's our main conversation at our house. Whether you're talking about the military, we're talking about hunting, or we're talking about fishing. That's really all we talk about in our house. And so after we had graduated, I told him I really wanted to do something related to animal nutrition. But in Wisconsin, I mean, if you want to do that, you're basically limited to the dairy industry or nothing, because it's such a huge thing here. And so I got a job with a really good nutrition company right out of school, and did some dairy nutrition programs, and worked on some big farms and had some clients for about 6 months, and it was fine. I enjoyed it, but my heart wasn't really in it. I've always been so geared towards whitetail nutrition that I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I had actually applied for a job with a pretty well-known whitetail nutrition company in Wisconsin here, and I was turned down because I didn't have any experience. So that kind of lit a fire under my butt, so to say, to be like, you know what, fine, I'll make my own nutrition company. And my hubby was more than supportive, and he was just like, you know what, you just have to do it. So that's what I did. I had every nutritional resource available at my fingertips at the time, and I made up a couple mineral recipes, I guess, and went to our attorney, got an LLC started, and that's how we got started.
Wow, that's exciting. And folks, their Facebook page is Marnik Whitetail Nutrition LLC, and I just saw that you're near what is it, Arkansas? how do you pronounce that?
Arkansas. It's pronounced just like the state, but it's spelled a little bit hickish, I guess.
Yeah, it's and Jimmy Davis, a good friend of mine who's been on the show, has a farm down there. Do you know Jimmy Davis?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know Jimmy. Him and I have spent a couple nights at the local establishment.
Yeah, I was supposed to come hunting with me. I was supposed to go hunting with him, and as we said in the warm-up, I'm having shoulder surgery October 27th, so that's going to curtail any travels this fall. But he showed me a monster deer. It was Friday night when the first frost came through. I mean, this thing, had to be pushing, I'm going to say 160 to be kind. I think it's bigger than that, but just a huge mature deer. Let's just leave it at that. And so he says, he's here, come and get him. And I'm going, not going to happen.
Quit teasing me.
Yeah, you hunt near his farm?
It's a small world. Yeah, where he hunts actually borders where we hunt. So turkey season, we kind of almost share properties, I guess. So, and we have the same bucks on trail camera and all that stuff. So it's pretty cool.
I wonder if Jimmy referred you to me. I don't know. You'll have to ask him next time you see him.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and folks, if you're listening to this and want to get on the show, you hear the show, you know how the show's set up, just email it at whitetailrendezvous@gmail.com. Love to send you some information. So if you want to be a guest, let me know that. And while we're talking about reaching out, how do people get in touch with you, Audrey?
With me, basically, my Facebook account. I mean, I kind of live on social media through my different endeavors that I'm doing. So, I mean, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or my business email is marnik@outlook.com.
Okay, and let's talk about your Twitter handle, Instagram handle, Snapchat, whatever you are. How do people reach out to you in those in that social media?
Instagram, it's Audrey_Pfaffe_28. That's for my Instagram. That's also my Twitter. And then Facebook is just Facebook /Team AA or /Monarch Whitetail Nutrition.
All right. And thanks for that. And where do people buy your product? Do you have a special website for that?
We do not yet. It's just kind of through word of mouth or, just contact me directly and I can get it shipped to you. We're I'm literally bagging and sticking labels on my bags and scooping it with little measuring spoons and stuff out of my horse shed right now. So it's like, kind of started from the bottom. But realistically, I mean, a lot of people started in just little workshops in their garage or in the basements of their houses and stuff. And so that's what we're doing right now. And it's actually working out really well for us because we live in Pepin County, which borders Buffalo County. We have a lot of friends that hunt Buffalo County. So just by word of mouth and, different people getting different leases and friends around the area and stuff, we were actually in we have customers in 9 states right now. So all the way from northern Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, Ohio, even down to Louisiana and Alabama.
So here's a good friend of mine out of the Wamedy area. Actually, his camp is at the Wamedy House. Pete and Paul Martin, Buffalo County Bucks. Just look them up on the web and tell them, I referred them to you and said, hey, you guys, try their stuff.
Absolutely. I'll let them know.
Yeah, and they're great guys. I had to call him yesterday. I was going to spend 4 or 5 days with him hunting this fall, and I go, guess what? And he's in the medical field as well as doing the whitetail outfitting. I don't call it outfitting. I live out west, so it's different than outfitting. But anyway, he's in the whitetail business down there and helps lots and lots of people get big bucks every single year. So Pete and Paul Martin, Buffalo County Bucks out of Wamedy House. Shout out for you guys. So let's get back to hunting. Why did you start hunting?
It's kind of, I guess, the typical, your entire family hunts, you're born into a family of hunters. I didn't have a choice but to enjoy it, and it's just kind of in my DNA. I mean, when I was 2 years old, my dad took me up into a tree stand with him. I can't imagine we seen a single deer because a little chatty blonde 2-year-old girl up in a tree stand with you, there's no way any deer's going to come near you. But I guess he literally carried me to the tree stand. put me up in the tree stand and tied me directly to the tree with bale twine so that I wouldn't fall out, so he could climb back down and get his bow and everything. So I guess my first hunting experience was when I was 2 years old. And from there, I mean, it went to, tagging along on deer drives. I was tagging along if someone shot a deer and, helping with blood trails. And my dad taught me everything I know about the outdoors and deer hunting, really. He, taught me how to gut a deer, how to, follow blood trails, vital areas, organ hits, the whole thing. And it soon kind of blossomed from I'm tagging along on hunts to I'm hunting all by myself, or I'm more or less kind of leading the charge, and Dad's just kind of there to supervise. And I got my first deer when I was 12 years old with my 243 Remington Model 7. And that's the only rifle I've ever shot a deer with. I'm 26 years old and I still use that gun. It just fits me perfect and I love it. And, was shooting rabbits and squirrels and stuff growing up. I grew up in a big farming family as well. So, I really didn't have a choice but to enjoy hunting because we're so big into it. And it's just been my lifestyle and my livelihood ever since I was a small child.
Let's talk about some of the lessons that you carried on, you learned from your dad, that you carry on and you share today with whoever wants to, talk about the hunting tradition, safety in the outdoors, or, lessons learned from getting busted by big whitetails.
Really, every time I go hunting, even if I feel like it was a terrible day, like if I got rained out or almost blown out of the tree stand, the wind was wrong, I got busted or winded by a dose, didn't see a dang thing all night. If I just had a terrible, awful night, I still learned something. I think the day I stopped learning is the day I stopped hunting, because there's always new experiences, new things to learn, new sights that you see every time you go out. Even right down to just sitting in the tree stand and this really weird bug landed on my tree, and I took a picture of it and Googled it, and I'm like, oh, that's what that is. I've never seen it before. Like, you're always learning something, even right down to just little minuscule stuff. So, even if I had a horrible night, I still learned something. I'm still gaining experience every single time I set foot out of my vehicle and start walking into the woods or the field or wherever I'm hunting. So, and I guess just never being afraid to ask questions is a huge learning step too, because there's always going to be people there willing to help you. Nobody that I know of anyway, if you're a new hunter or you're trying to get into hunting or you've been hunting for a little while but you just haven't gotten a deer yet, just ask somebody, like, hey, how do we do this? Hey, what do you think about this type of broadhead versus this one? Hey, what do you think about this stand setup versus this one? There's always people out there willing to help you, and especially people that would be like, hey, you're a new hunter, come hunt with me. Because that's how I am too. If someone would come up, a total stranger could come up to me and be like, hey, I'm looking to get into hunting, but I really don't know where to start. Can you help me out? Be like, absolutely. Here's a list of references. Call me anytime. Let's figure this out. Let's get you a deer. Let's get you involved in this sport. And I think that's really just kind of the first step to getting into it and to learning and loving it if you hadn't grown up doing it,
Yeah, and thanks for that. And you mentioned people helping people, and I've got two people that I'm just going to give shout outs to and have you get in touch with. One's Kirsty Pike, CEO, owner of Proas Women's Hunting Apparel. Do you know Kirsty at all, or Proas?
I do not. I've heard of Proas, but I do not know Kirsty personally.
Yeah, Kirsty. And then the other one is John OBrien with Grandpa Ray Outdoors out of the Madison area. And he's been an agronomist for over 26 years. So, even though you're in competing industries somewhat, he's a guy that he's a teacher. And I've never seen him not talk to somebody, and if they got, good questions and want to know more about the business, because the whitetail business, folks, is $1 billion business, and there's 17 million of us. So there's plenty of room for everybody. And it takes people like Audrey to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I've got some game, and I'm willing to learn. And, that'll stand you, and put you miles ahead of a lot of people that, as both you and I know, think they know it all, which isn't true. Oh.
Exactly. You should always be humble about this sport. And I can't stand it when people think, oh, well, I shot X amount of big bucks, so I know it all. And have time to talk to people like you. Like that just irks me so bad. It's like, you should be always promoting this sport and always, trying to show people how much you love it and how, why they should get into it and love it too. Because it's not just going out and shooting the biggest buck and that makes you the better hunter. It's, being willing to help out everybody so that everyone has a good experience and everyone can fall in love with the sport the way that you do. And I guess, just promoting the sport and promoting, trying to get other people into it, especially kids and especially, the younger generation, because they really are the future of the sport.
And we all are. And I guess I'll just say it this way. Every one of us has a responsibility to help somebody get into our sport. And if everybody recruits one, takes one person hunting a year, just like her mom, I mean, that's unbelievable. And you think about that, and because we got a great sport, a great tradition, but a lot of people don't want us to hunt, period. And so if we do our part every single year, take a kid, take a cousin, whatever, we're going to help grow the sport. Your thoughts on that?
Well, absolutely. And I mean, actually, now that you bring it up, this past weekend was the youth deer season here in Wisconsin. And my little cousin Aiden shot 2 deer his first time out deer hunting, and he's 10 years old. So that little goober is going to go back to school and just tell all his friends about how he had the best weekend in the entire world because he went deer hunting. And that was my uncle and my cousin that took him out. So it's just like, you don't have to be taking out your own kids or, anything like that. Just take a kid, period, that wants to go out and wants to get into it. And I mean, that's just the first step right there.
Let's touch on something that's happened to you, and let's talk about you building up for the season. You want to have your optimal range or, kill zone range out to 40 yards. What happened there?
Well, I had 2 goals that I set for myself this year. I've been bow hunting since I was 13, and every year I want to improve on something. Well, this year my 2 goals were I wanted to shoot consistent, good groups out to 40 yards. I wanted to be comfortable shooting out to 40 yards. I wanted to bump my poundage up to 50. And I ended up bumping my poundage up to a little bit above 50, and I was shooting consistent, good groups at 40 yards. I was really excited about it. I'm like, yes, these are my 2 goals I had. A couple of my friends helped me out with a lot of that at the R100, the Reinhardt target shoot down in Iowa I think that was back in August. And so I accomplished that all before bow season had even started, and I was really excited about it. But I've kind of had this neck pain ever since May. It kind of started, and I think bumping my poundage up just kind of helped tweak it that little bit more, because now my muscles are straining just that a little bit more to draw my bow back. And actually this Sunday kind of hit the pinnacle for me that I was trying to draw back on deer when I was out hunting Sunday afternoon, and I couldn't get my bow drawn back because I had this horrible pain right at the base of my neck. And I mean, thank God it was a doe. I mean, if it would have been a monster buck and I wouldn't have been able to draw back on it, I mean, I don't know what I would have done. That would have just been about the most frustrating, depressing thing for me. But so I actually have a chiropractor appointment this afternoon to see if we can get it fixed and get the little kinks worked out and see if that has anything to do with it. Because it'd be really kind of a bummer and put a damper on things if I got those 2 goals accomplished and then I can't even hunt or do anything this fall. So especially since we have some really good shooters on camera now, and it's like, if I wouldn't be able to go out and hunt them after all this work we put in and all the practice, all the tree stands, all the scouting and everything, just to get a big fat nothing at the beginning of the season, basically, because of this issue. That would really suck.
Well, I'm not a doctor, but I know the chiropractor has helped me a lot. So, and the other thing I was going to say, folks, we're using muscles, we're taxing muscles. You get in this tree stand or even a ground blind, you're shooting at angles you might not have shot at. Sometimes you shoot from your knees. I know when I started hunting elk, I shot from my knees out to my optimum range, which is about 40 yards. And I prefer it even closer, but I shot from my knees. I shot, with my shoulder against a tree. a lot of different sets because I wanted to be ready and have muscle memory. And that's the biggest thing that hurts us, is that we don't practice the shots we're going to take. And I know a lot of people, they'll shoot, just at target butts, and they'll shoot at 3D targets all day long, but they never shoot out of their tree stand when they're practicing. And I scratch my head. So enough of that. I'll give a shout out right now to Fit to Hunt, Jeremy Kerber. And I'm going to send him your email address and introduce you, because he helped me get, gave me some ideas for my sheep hunt, where I did an archery sheep hunt. So, and he was very supportive the whole time during my hunt. So he knows something about, how our body works and the muscles, and he's a physical therapist with a bent towards, hunting. So, a shout out to Jeremy. Let's talk about, lessons learned. Now, the rut isn't, we're not even in the seeking phase yet, I don't think. But what are you seeing out in the woods, and how do you break down the period that we all go crazy about, the rut?
Well, I guess right now we're just kind of seeing, we've actually noticed just in the past few days here, the little bucks are really starting to try to chase. The does they're starting to kick their fawns away, because it's about time for them to leave. And so I've seen a lot of fawns running around kind of lonely and bellowing out in the woods and stuff. And then the couple does that I've been seeing that are without their fawns are having a bunch of little bucks chasing them. My hubby actually, he doubled up. He shot 2 does from the same tree within 10 minutes of each other Sunday night. And the one, he said she was getting dogged by a 6-point. I mean, like, he was full blown on a mission to breed that doe, and it's mid-October. So I think the little guys right now are starting to get kind of frisky, because they're seeing these does are kind of off on their own, and they're more or less trying to, I guess this isn't very PC to say, but they're trying to get it in before the big guys, start getting all rutted up and kick their butts, basically, and kick them away. But of course the does are having nothing to do with them right now, so it's just kind of a bunch of chasing, but it's still fun to see, especially when they come in grunting and acting tough and stuff. It's kind of funny. But I guess, during the rut, I mean, it's the best time of year to be out there, because I think you see more action. You see a lot of cool things that you don't get to see any other time of the year. I mean, right down how vocal they are, and their patterns are so different. I mean, it's basically impossible to pattern deer during the rut. Early season, it's real easy. Late season, it's pretty easy. But during the rut, it's so random and sporadic, and it's kind of cool. I mean, any other time of the year, you wouldn't really plan on sitting at noon ever. But for us, we found that between about 10 o'clock in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, that's actually prime time to sit during the rut, because there's just so much chasing and movement going on that it just kind of seems like that's a good time to be out there for us, especially if it's during a cold front or right after a storm front or anything like that. So I guess we just kind of try to, in preparing for the rut, we try to be near water, because that's more important than being near food at that time of year, because they have one thing on their mind, and that's breeding. And they don't really care about coming and visiting food sources and really eating. They don't care about visiting mineral sites. They don't really care about anything except for chase and breed, and that's it. So we try to be where they think the does are going to be, is where we'll try to set up. If we think the does are going to get tired and try to hide in the bedding area, we're going to set up near that bedding area, because that's where the bucks are going to congregate, because does are buck magnets basically that time of year. So we'll set up like in the thick timber, we'll set up near water sources, we'll set up near bedding sites. And usually, there'll be a lot of chasing action going on, and every now and then you'll have a doe bring them right to you. And more often than not, it doesn't happen that way, and that's why it's hunting. But I still say to this day, my best day of hunting, I didn't even pick up my bow once, and it was my best day of hunting. And it was during the rut, being out there at like 11:30 in the morning, and it was just nonstop chasing action all day. I mean, running past your stand, bumping into my ladder because they're running so fast. Several fights that day, just the grunting, the vocalization. It was so loud out in the woods, just from all these deer grunting and roaring and chasing each other, and it's just absolutely incredible to see. And that's stuff that you don't see any other time of the year, except for right then during the rut. So it's it's a pretty exciting time of year for us.
Break down where you are in Pepin County, close to the Mississippi River above Buffalo County, your dates for, when basically the rut begins, the seeking, the chasing, and then the lockdown, or then, lockdown period where they're actually breeding, and then the post-rut.
So for us, it's usually like last week of October is when it's kind of pre-rut. They're starting to chase. They're starting to kick things off a little bit. But the does usually don't settle down and really, stand and get bred until usually about the first or second week in November. So it's really kind of fun to get in there about the last week of October, very beginning of November, like right around Halloween's a really good day to be out because the bucks are chasing and, it's really action-packed, but the does aren't ready to just lay down and get bred yet. So there's going to be a lot of action during that time, a lot of chasing. And, if we can avoid it, we will never, ever, ever miss hunting Halloween. That's just a fun day to be out. And for us, it's been pretty successful. Usually second week in November, you're getting into where the does are actually coming into heat. They're getting bred, and that's, I guess, what's known as like the lockdown, where you're not seeing these big bucks on their feet really anymore because the big mature guys, they've got a doe or two pegged and they're laying down. They're tired. They're just waiting for her to come in heat so they can breed her, and then they'll move on to the next one. And so usually during that lockdown period, you'll get one here and there without a doe and seeking a new doe, but for the most part, it's a lot of the younger guys, the younger bucks, the 2.5, 3.5-year-olds, the ones that aren't the dominant one in that area that are kind of probably gotten their butt kicked a couple times by now and usually have broken tines and a little bit tore up, and they're the ones that are cruising and looking for these does, but the big boys have usually kind of got one locked down by then. So and then usually the week after that, third weekend in November is gun season. So, all bets are kind of off at that time unless you have a lot of property and it's just you on it. A lot of deer drives are going on. You've got kind of the Orange Army coming in there and cleaning out a lot of the population. So it's really difficult to, say when they're going to be out, have a good hunting tactic, a good game plan to go after these deer because it's such a crapshoot with, if the neighbors are doing a drive, they're all going to be, deer just going to be constantly getting kicked around. And it's really difficult to, pinpoint where you think they're even going to be at that point. And that's when a lot of these bigger bucks actually don't end up going nocturnal during that time for, maybe a week or two because, they figure out real quick once they hear that first gunshot that, oh, hey, we know what time of year it is. We're just going to lay low. And that's usually what they'll end up doing. So then the following week after deer season, after rifle season ends is muzzleloader. And I really enjoy going out for muzzleloader because it's like bow season, except for you have a muzzleloader on you. Because a lot of people don't really do it around here. There are some, but it's not nearly as popular as just the regular 9-day gun season. So for us, it's kind of cool to see how things settle back down. The deer become, active in daylight again, and it's more or less just like bow season again, but you can shoot out to 150 yards.
Well, thanks for that. And I'm going to ask you, do you have another 20, 30 minutes so we can go? I want to break down how you hunt each of the phases of the rut. Do you have another 20 minutes?
Yeah. Sure, I've got plenty of time.
Okay, so folks, that's the end of part one with Audrey Pfaffe, and we're going to go to part two on next episode, and we're going to break down the rut and how Audrey and Andrew hunt those period of time because big bucks are killed down during the lockdown. It happens every year, but you have to change up a game a lot. So this is the end of part one. Look forward to having you join us in part two. You don't want to miss the next show, folks. It's part two of Audrey Pfaffe and Hunting the Rut, breaking it down into the seeking, chasing, lockdown, and post-rut periods, where you can take a mature buck in each one of those periods. But you got to listen to Audrey because she knows what she's talking about.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.